Glad that you could join us. It is a chilly evening in Asheville, North Carolina. And is it a chilly afternoon, Brooke, in Colorado Springs?
It's actually a nice day today.
Was it?
Out there now since the sun went down, but it was a
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Well, it's evening. It's 6 o'clock now, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you've joined us. A lot has been happening through the Colson Center and Colson Fellows Program, and it's just great to be walking with you during this time. Holiday season is coming up so quickly, and you're going to look and say, I'm over halfway through, and it's hard to believe. Let me encourage you again. If you're struggling a bit, feeling like you're behind, don't let that bother you. Um, I think the holiday season does give you some opportunity to catch up a bit, but also try to stay as current as you can and backfill all that you can. Brooke will encourage you in that way as well, and do let us know if you get to the end of your rope. Brooke knows how to tie the knot there to keep you from going down. But we're here to help you all that we can. Brooke, you've got some things that you want to share just a little bit before we get started, right?
That's right. As Bill just shared, it is helpful to stay on track with where the rest of the students are, so that when we're doing webinars and things, you are with us in terms of having finished the StrengthsFinder assessment and those kinds of things. And as he said, backfill the work that you have missed. It's also important that you join each month in the course. Remember, each month is a course in PathRight, and that's where you will find the webinar dates and links. So you want to make sure you've joined the month that we're in so you can find those links to join us for the webinars. As always, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions during tonight's presentation. If you hover at the bottom of your screen, you will see 3 sections. You'll see raise hand, question, and chat. You will want to either type in your question in the questions tab, or you could raise your hand, and that will alert us that you have a question, and we can call on you, and you'll see a link to unmute yourself when the time comes if you'd like to ask your question verbally. With that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Brooke. Well, we're going to talk about StrengthsFinders. We're going to talk about the teaching practicum, and we're going to talk about the 3-year plan. It sounds like a lot, and that's because it is, but we're doing it now so you can get it in your mind. We've made reference to all of those things along the way, but you've probably already finished the StrengthsFinder. That's why you're online here, and when we'll talk through that, I want to give you the overall perspective of how everybody came out on the StrengthsFinder, and give you some ideas about how to use it and why we think it's valuable and helpful. And I think you'll be encouraged by that as well. We're looking forward to the residency in San Antonio in January. Yeah, Lynn and I have a huge year coming up. We'll be there, and then we'll be in Australia for a couple of weeks with the Colson Fellows down there and a few other things. And we're looking forward to seeing them. And then a couple months later, we've got Wilberforce Weekend, and then I'm helping to lead a trip through the cities of Paul, beginning in Athens, and going through all the way through Greece up into Turkey, going through Istanbul, which is a city that the Apostle Paul never visited, as far as we know, but he would have. And but it's going to be a great. Lots of people going, and it'll be a good thing. If you've never done this kind of thing before, the cities of Paul, it's amazing. Not quite as overwhelming as the Holy Land, but it's right up there. It's just really cool. So, well, let me pray for us, and then we'll jump right into StrengthsFinder and get through this, and then see if you have some questions, okay? So let's pray. Father, thank you so much for the goodness that you show to us. Thank you for today, and every morning, Lord, I just think about, okay, Lord, I want to be faithful today. Please help me be faithful to you today. Use me. You're getting your family back, and you want to use us to help, and help me to be an encouragement to others with that in mind. I pray for those who are listening to me. Some are going through some really difficult situations right now, kind of overwhelming. Just let them know you're there, that you're walking alongside them. And sometimes the greatest growth occurs in the midst of all of that. And that's not really experienced or even acknowledged until after it's all over. So saying that in the middle is not always helpful, but at the same time, Lord, your presence is what you've promised to so many of your people in the midst of real struggles. So to that end, Father, we give you ourselves, are grateful for the way that you loved us. And you've even provided us both resources and time and ability to be able to do a program like this so that we might be better equipped to serve you. Now bless us tonight, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, Brooke has bailed, and so I'm going to do my best to, let's see here, make sure I get the right one. Sorry, I need my glasses for that. Let's see, it is right there. And I'm going to share that. There we go. StrengthsFinder, Teaching Practicum, and the 3-year plan. Okay. Let me get our slides going here. I hope you enjoyed Ken Boa, those of you who were with them last week. If you haven't, you need to see him. Ken's been a long-term friend. Used to have him when I was president at Bryant, have him come up and speak at the college there. And he's a hoot. He has his hands in just about everything. And one of the things I really love is when he talks about entertainment, culture, movies, and so on. All you have to do is mention a couple movies, and he just takes off. And it's great. It's great. So sorry not to be here. If you haven't seen the video, you need to watch it because it's well worth your time. But now we're going to talk about StrengthsFinder. One of the questions that a lot of people ask, why are we doing StrengthsFinder? And the rationale is, I think, a good one. There are a lot of instruments out there which can give you some self-analysis and so on. What StrengthsFinders does is really give you some self-understanding. And we think it's important. Most fellows program, in fact, I don't know of any fellows program that does this, but we want you, as you examine the world around you, as you examine your own faith and commitment to the Lord, but also to examine yourself. A lot of people think they know what their strengths are, but may not really. StrengthsFinders is a fascinating program in that it is very positive, and we'll talk about that in just a second. It does help you understand some of the inclinations that you have, some of the characteristics of your own life and talents that you have that you're investing in. And the point behind them is for you to invest in those, and you find great satisfaction. What the Don Clifton approach actually does, it was now through Gallup, is used mainly for employment or for personal understanding of what sort of work I should go into. That doesn't mean that this is a no-fail program or that it gets everything right. If you take it again, it'll be slightly different. Brooke, I think, takes this every week just to see where she is. No, she doesn't. She's taken it, I forget, Brooke. I think you said 3. This is your 3rd time. But the idea is you begin to understand a little bit about the strengths that you actually have. And the philosophy behind this is, at least as far as work is concerned, that if these 5 areas are the top strengths that you have in your own life, and your talent, and your inclination for doing things, then it's probably good for you to be in a profession where you can utilize these. Problem is, not everybody has that kind of freedom or that kind of ability to find those. And there are times, for example, in ministry where you have to do a lot of things that may not be in your strengths, but you need to do them, and to do them as well as you possibly can. And so with that in mind, we're going to look at what the StrengthsFinders is providing for us. StrengthsFinders, it says almost 20 million. It's actually 22 million people now have taken this online assessment. 100 nations overall. They've got a huge database of people that have taken it. Over 40 years, they created a language for strengths. Let me get myself out of the way here. And they say there are over 100 different strengths, but they don't want to overwhelm everybody. I think 34 is overwhelming everybody, but that's just me. And but they think that they found a sweet spot to help everybody kind of understand what their strengths might be. It is a positive personal insight, focuses on strengths, And in this little book that you get, I hope you were able to get this, just reading through this book, looking at your own strengths, it has some good recommendations for you, some good understanding and how you can develop those kinds of things. And there's a lot of books written that reference this with that in mind. There are 50 ideas for action, a strength-based plan, and so on. And there's a lot of online resources. You've probably already heard from them with that in mind. Again, why strengths? It's because, let's say you have a strength in a certain area, like you're a learner, you love to learn. And that's but two of my top strengths are learner and input. That is, that if some of you are the same, because that's one of the top in all of the Colson Fellows is those two things. You love to learn and you love to read. You love to read deeply. You love to read all the time. And you got a 7 there. And to develop that, you can develop not only the depth and breadth of the reading, but also your ability to understand and articulate areas that you're studying. But if you're a 3 in learning, that probably means not only is that not necessarily a talent of yours, or it's probably not even an interest of yours. And if you try to shore that up, you might be able to get it up to, let's say, a 5. And does that really help you a lot? Maybe a little bit, but you could expend that energy in developing other strengths and really start finding sweet spots in what you do in your work, in ministry, and so on. So a strength is something that you do well. It's a pattern of behavior, thoughts, and feelings. You look at yourself and you find out, wow, I really am pretty good at this. And it's composed both of skills and knowledge and talents, and all of those things converge. And those are the kind of things that you do because you have a real interest in them. Now we're going to start sharing strengths. We'll share my strengths, and even my wife's. Lynn does not mind me putting those up here. And Brooks, we're going to compare Brooke and me, actually. And then we got Michael and Brooke Boryak as well. These are my top 5. Input, connectedness, learner, developer, and includer. And I would say nobody listening to me right now has those same 5 in that same order, because the odds are 1 in 33 million that anybody would have those 5 in that order. And that's just because you have 34, and if you're a math person, you know how to figure out the odds. Input, I love input, and I ended up going into education, higher education, where I can read and speak and write and teach, because number 3, I'm a learner. I love learning. I love the breadth and depth I'd like to learn everything that I can. And I'm always looking for that kind of input and learning, and that helps me because I like to understand the world around me. Connectedness means that I see the world around me as connected, not in the transcendental worldview sense, but to realize that there's nothing that is hanging out all by itself, that everything in one way or another is connected. And that's a worldview perspective, because I think the connectedness, deep down, when I begin to think about it, the connectedness comes from God. I'm also a developer, it says. And I love discipling. And in my very first year of teaching at college, way back when I was much younger, I started with meeting with a group of students, guys that discipled them for a year. And I did that basically every year that I was in higher education, a different group of guys each year. And they're some of the closest guys closest friends that I have been students that I did that with. And it was such a blessing. And then includer. And if you know me, and Brooke might agree with this, I like people on the fringe. I like to bring them in. I don't like anybody left out. And I just sense that that's what God wants us to be and to do. And that's something that I have done in my life as well. And those are the top 5 of my StrengthsFinder. Now, my wife, Lynn, her number 1 is harmony, and she is very strong in harmony. She wants everybody to get along and strives for that. And she is so sweet. And those of you who've met her, you know that's true. She's a very consistent person. She is exceptionally empathetic. She cares deeply what people think, and she feels with them. In fact, she talks. You notice number 5 is communication. Lynn talks things out. I mull things over. And when we were first married, Lynn talked through everything. And at first it was like, wow, I'm thinking, wow, Lord, why does she talk so much? And I realized that what she's doing is that's how she thinks. That's how she deals with issues, is that she talks out loud. Even the movie theater or watching something on television or whatever, she will talk talk back to the screen. And so we have to be careful where we sit in the movie theater. She's not that bad in the movie theater, but that's how she deals with it. And now I think it's lovely. I love it because I just when she's thinking out loud, I just listen and I can reflect back to her if she wants me to. A lot of times she'll say, "You didn't need to respond. I'm just talking." That's fine. That's fine. And she also has connectedness, which is the only of the five that we share. In fact, I think I told a lot of you that Lynn and I have taken everything from the MMPI to the DISC to Taylor Johnson to all of those, and we are not supposed to get along at all. The tests tell us that we do not get along in social or work environments, and we laugh because we just love each other and always have, and I just like being with her. She likes being with me. And I remember my mentor, Prof. Howard Hendricks, used to say, it's not how compatible you are, but how you handle your incompatibilities that's important. You can be 99% compatible, but if you handle that 1% incompatible poorly, you got a miserable relationship. And then you can be 99% incompatible. And in many ways, Lynn and I are, but that 1%, we just love it. And we just handle all the incompatibilities with deference and love. And it makes for a great life together. So as you think about these things, the strengths help us as we understand each other, how we deal with issues, how we deal with conflict, how we schedule things and so on. And that helps me understand her. She understands me, and it just works out really well. Now, speaking of Brooke is strong in belief. That means she has core values, which she always goes back to. She is very empathetic. I always say that Brooke, nobody can read a room like Brooke. She can tell just about what everybody in the room is feeling just by looking around the room. She also shares connectedness, that sense that everything is connected mainly because of God. She is also a discipler and a developer, and she loves input as well. She loves to read, think through things. All of the 34 themes fit into one of four categories. Most of you have probably read a lot of this already, but let me just highlight what they are. The execution. People like to make things happen. These are people who want to do something, not necessarily think, but to do. And that's what they're known for. Others are influencers. People with the dominant themes here, they know how to take charge, to speak up, and to make sure everybody's being heard. But whatever it is, they want to influence people. Relationship building. For them, the relationships, the strong relationships, are the most important part. And they want to see the team work well, and they know that if everybody is in the right relationship with each other, things are going to go well. And then strategic thinking. People that have this particular themes as dominant, they help think about what things could be, as it says there. They get good information, and they want to make good decisions. Now, a lot of times it depends on which direction they're looking, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And here are the 34 themes. Now, you've seen this in the book probably, and so they all kind of are aligned in such a way as to show you where you fit into these four major themes of how people make decisions and live their lives. I'll get rid of those extra words there, and so you can see this a little bit better, because I want to show you some comparisons. Now, these are my themes, my five. And again, if you know me at all, you're not surprised that all of mine fall into those two areas. Relationships are very important, and strategic thinking, particularly in the areas of input and learner. I'm glad those two are together. It does show, because if it was just input, it means I just want to get a lot of input just for the sake of the input. But because I'm a learner, and because I like to make those connections and be able to see how things work, then the input has a purpose in that. Now here's Brooke. Brooke and I have worked together for many years. You see that we share we share two, the connectedness and the input. We've got another one, Brooke. That's right, this time. And but her relationships are very strong in the empathy. Well, we have a developer too, don't we, Brooke? Empathy and belief over in the executing. Her core values are really important to her, and she will put those together. And we get along really well because we complement each other when it comes to work. She's very detail oriented. One of her strengths, I think it's year 6 or 7 now, is responsibility. And I need somebody like Brooke to make things happen in some ways, for me to bounce ideas off, because she's a thinker as well, but she's also a doer and an activator right away. And these are the others that work in the Colson Fellows program. You see Michael's in the purple, and he's got a couple in the strategic thinking, a couple in the relationship, and then over in the activator. And then Brooke Boryak, who just became engaged this weekend. If that's a secret, I just blew it. She has strategic thinking. Brooke she has a master's degree in apologetics. You may not know that. And she's very smart and thinks really well. She relates with people quite a bit, and she is very focused. When you give her some things to do, she can just laser in on some things and get them done. So all that being said, we work together pretty well. Now, here is all of you. These are the top themes in the yellow of Colson Fellows program, and the number of people that are in each one of them. Now, notice all of the strengths, most of the strengths occur under strategic thinking. Not a surprise. The fact that learner is first, I mean, you're in a program where you are learning, and you were a learner long before you got involved with this program. And so that is probably what drew you in. You love the input, and you love the intellectual thought and context. Context is where your context is where you see the present now, and sometimes you don't see how it all fits together. But from context, you always look to the past to try to make sense of now. And so you'll see what's happening now is always grounded somewhere in the past. And if context is not coupled with input, or maybe even learner, then you may be always looking at the past and finding everything that's going wrong now is because of something that's happened in the past, and it's abiding and so on. Connectedness is right there. Seeing, big believers, we all know that things are connected, not disconnected. And we have achievers and belief and responsibility. If you are a person that is of significance, and I won't go into details just about that, but I think last year, Brooke, we didn't have anybody. So that's good for you. I love woo. Woo sounds like you're trying to woo people. Well, actually, it's an acronym for wooing, so for winning others over, And that's an influencer where you can be a great fundraiser if you are a wooer. But just I find it interesting, isn't it? And Brooke and I were talking before we came on that we've done this 4 years now, and actually the same ones come up over and over again from the Colson Fellows. And so in one sense, you think it'd be surprising that that's the case, but maybe not. And just some highlights for the top themes. A learner, if you are particularly talented in the learner theme, you have a great desire to learn and want to continuously improve. The process of learning rather than the outcome excites them. In other words, you just love to learn. I just want to learn. You may be great at Trivial Pursuit or at the game shows on TV, the trivial game shows. Connectedness, I've already talked about that. People exceptionally talented in this area have faith in the links among all things. They believe that there are few coincidences and almost every event has a meaning. Responsibility, people exceptionally talented in this area take psychological, and I will say moral as well, moral ownership of what they say and do. They think it's important and they're responsible. If you give them something to do, they will do it because they feel like they must. They're committed to stable values such as honesty and loyalty, which are, two characteristics, of course, that just scream responsibility. Input. People exceptionally talented in this area have a craving to know more, and that's me. I'm always reading something, always trying to figure something out. People may dislike their phones, but if I'm like some of you, I've seen some of you do this actually at the last residency. Somebody asks a question or makes a comment, everybody goes to their phones to find out if it's true or to get in more information on that. They like to collect and archive all kinds of information. Belief, in this particular theme, people have certain core values that are unchanging. Out of these values emerges a defined purpose for their lives. Most of these people have a pretty strong understanding of how they should be involved in whatever it is that they're doing, and so on. And intellection, again, just as it sounds, it's characterized by intellectual activities. Like to think about high-minded kinds of things, put things together. If this is your strongest and you don't have some of the other more relational kinds of things, you would tend to be somewhat of a loner, very introspective, and you really like intellectual discussions. So those are the top themes of the Colson Fellows, and it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now you're probably wondering, what are the lowest themes? Well, there they are, over in the executing and influencing area. Consistency, deliberative, discipline, and focus. That is very few of you. And then command, competition, self-assurance, and significance. Again, there's stuff. Those are the lowest. And again, it's just interesting is that because of the program, the way the program is, the program will attract people who have these kinds of strengths and these kinds of, let's say, lower strengths, because even if it's number 34, it's not a weakness. It's just a lower strength. And if you go online, and I hope you do this because there's such a wealth of information available online. And I think it's important that if you want to know more about this, that you take advantage of what they have. There's, like I say, there's 22 million people that have used it, and lots of information. They have videos of people talking about what each one of these particular strengths would be. And you can pay, oh goodness, I think it's $39, and you can get just a real elaborate feedback on you, because they've got some algorithms which put together how your strengths interface with each other and so on. And then it actually gives you some plans of what to do, how to grow in that strength and so on. For example, in positivity, this is just one of mine. I signed up for all that. And it gives you some perspective of how you might be seen and so on. I'm not one of those where you take a test, say, oh yeah, that's me. Rather, I think I'm a little more circumspect about that, but it is good to think out loud about, maybe what does this mean? And the positivity, of course, being one of my, I think it's number 6 now, I can't remember, is, I like to be positive. I just am. I look for the pony. And then you can also get things. I have it on my phone. This is my phone. I think this is the one I took last time, but all 34 are right there, and it's got all the information. You can touch it, and they're organized and everything. And it's helpful every now and then. I'll just I'm on a plane or something. I'll just kind of read through some of these and think about them, and so on. So I encourage you to do that, to grow into that and think about how this might be you. If you think, boy, this survey was so far from who I really am, well, that's okay too. That's okay too. But again, we wanted to take some time, some of your time, for you to get some self-awareness that might be helpful for you as you think about how God could use you. I have known so many people who were in a job that they hated, took this and they realized, I know why I hate this job, and it helped them move into another area, and in which they're very, very happy now because they're in their strengths and so on. So here's some application questions for you. Ask yourself, how does this information help you better understand your unique talents? How can you use this to understand this understanding to add value to your relationships? In fact, if your spouse has not taken this, or a significant other, or somebody else that you're close to or work with, they haven't taken it, encourage them. And then compare and think out loud and see how it gives you some better insight. And how can you use this information to minister to your community? And what will you do differently tomorrow as a result of this report? And that's just some ideas. And the StrengthsFinders book, it's alphabetical. There's a short section of what StrengthsFinders is, and then there are the 34 strengths alphabetically, and they tell you about it. They tell you what it is. They give you some thoughts about it, and then toward the end, they talk about ideas for action, what you could and should be doing to grow in that strength. And then if you have to work with others who have this particular strength, how can you be supportive to them? How can you help them? How can you encourage them? Which I think is really good, because you may be working with somebody that has a strength that's the exact opposite of yours. And so how can I help them? What kind of behavior can I have to help and encourage them? So take advantage of this opportunity God's given you for some self-awareness and understanding how he might be able to use you. Okay, now, we'll answer some questions on that as we get to the end, because I do want to talk just briefly about these two areas of responsibility that you have. And the first is a teaching practicum. And one of Chuck's goals was for you not only to receive knowledge and a worldview perspective and so on, and to how to engage the culture, but to communicate to others as well. And basically, he said, if you can't teach it, you don't understand it, you don't know it. And therefore, a teaching practicum has always been part of the Centurions and now the Colson Fellows program. Now, you may not be a teacher or comfortable speaking in front of others. However, we want everybody to be able to lead others to a new understanding of some of the truths, some of the principles, some of the insights that you've received. And so that's what we're asking you to do, to sometime between now and Wilberforce weekend. Now, at least get it lined up. A lot of people were not able to do their teaching practicum until after Wilberforce weekend, some not even in the fall. And we just want you to have it lined up by then. Now, you may be thinking, so where am I going to go teach? Well, we are not as stringent about that as you might think. We want you to be creative. And Brooke, you might help me a little bit afterwards to talk about some examples. One was a lady. She was nervous about it, but she regularly spent some time with some high school young ladies, and so they met at McDonald's for I forget how many times they met, Brooke. I think it was like 4 or 5 times, and went through one of the chapters. Maybe it was Mere Christianity or something like that. And they read a chapter each. Each week, and they get together, and she would lead them in a discussion of that over a Big Mac. And she asked if that would be okay. He said, absolutely, that's awesome. Other people have done some things online. Others have brought some family members and some neighbors together, and they said, listen, I've got to do this teaching practicum. Can you come and sit with me? It was an opportunity for good ministry and evangelism as well, and help me with this. And we're going to meet 4 times and read this book. Or you don't have to read the book. Let me just share with you the book, and we can talk about it and get your feedback. Others are using Sunday school opportunities. Others are actually teachers, and so they can do that. But the idea is for you to be in a position where you can teach some of the principles, some of the ideas, and some of the subject matter that you've been learning along the way. Now, let me give you some other ideas. You may have already put together a plan to teach a life group class, small group study, or home study. Some people are using Making Sense of Your World, our book on worldview, where we just go through the first few chapters of This is a Worldview. A Practical Guide to Culture is a really good one. In fact, that's one of the more popular books to take people through, to get some parents together and think through and talk through a number of those chapters. Or any other book in the curriculum that you particularly have found to be helpful for you. Others are using Worldview video series review, although, well, we'll talk about that. Right now, that's a video series that I did, and I've just actually, it's free now, and I need to figure out how to get that to you if you're interested. Our Wide Angle, which is also a Worldview video series, and it's in the Colson Center bookstore, or For the Life of the World, called Flow, Flow. That's a classic one, and if you're interested in that, I'd really like for you to teach that, because it's very unusual, very artsy, and I think very quite effective. And or any of the books that you've read, and just have people read it with you, and then lead a discussion. There's an example of, you go to our bookstore and you can get our book there, and you've already got the book, but for others, and that was the review, and I'll have to back up on that. I thought I took that out, Brooke, sorry. Here's Wide Angle, Framing Your Worldview, that you can get, and there's Flow, For the Life of the World, and I think it's a hoot, by the way. It's hilarious. It's just really quite good on looking at the world and why God has us here, and some of the beautiful ways that we can connect with God. And any of the things that we read are reading now, and it's always a blessing, I think, when people will say they'll take a book and go over it with a small group of people, and they say, I understand the book now, I get it. And I would challenge you, some of you, get Saving the Bible from Ourselves and go through it with some folks. See how many people you can offend. And then, of course, we record all of the webinars that we do, and they're on YouTube. Several people have taken 3 or 4 of these and had people come over to their house and watch them and then talked about them. And of course, we're going to have Oz after the first of the year. Remember J. Warner Wallace, Jim was with us, and what a great time that was. Unfortunately, Johnny is not going to be with us this year. We scheduled it, but her health is just not great. Christopher Yuan, of course, he'll be at our residency, and his work on same-sex attraction and from a biblical perspective is amazing, and all these other folks as well. And there's also a library in there of all the ones we've had in the past. If you want to take some of these and maybe do a 3 section series on some of them, and so on. It's just taking what you've been learning and getting other people involved and helping them guide through understanding. So what we want you to do is to decide what you want to teach. If you're having troubles, if you're struggling, let us know. And Brooke is really good to help you think through it. And I can help as well. And if you're not saying, I just don't know what I'm going to do, and we can help think out loud with you. Whom will you teach? How many people are there? How long are you going to teach, and so on. And then make a plan and proposal. And you can submit them under assignments by action on the Colson Fellows Learning Platform, and there's some questions to ask and so on. And Brooke has here for you, some of you have said that your teaching will take place after the commissioning. That's okay, as long as it's on your schedule, and so on. And then everybody lets us know that they've done it, and we've received some pretty cool responses on that. All right, so you may have a question about that, and we'll get to those in just a moment, because we want to talk just for a moment about the 3-year plan. The 3-year plan is really the implementation of all that you've been learning and thinking that God's been doing in your heart and life. One of the things we hear more than anything else is that the Colson Fellows program was not only something that helped them intellectually, but spiritually as well. And that's why we spend time in devotion. That's why we spend time being challenged in a devotional sort of book like Bonhoeffer this year. And because I think, and all of us at the Colson Center think, that whatever God wants you to do in culture must come from a heart that's devoted to Christ. A heart of love, a heart of understanding, a heart and understanding of grace. That is life-changing. That is world-changing. That is where God works best. It's the kindness of God that leads us to repentance. Paul says in Romans chapter 2. So all of that converges to a 3-year plan. And we call it a 3-year plan because we want you to have a long pathway to think through it. Some of you have told me that the reason you got involved in the Colson Fellows program was because of the 3-year plan. I'm tired of just reading. I want to do something. A number of you said, I already have my plan down. I've already figured out what I'm going to do. I came in with that. A number of you say, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And we have answers for you on all of that. Pat Williams, who is vice president of Orlando Magic and a number of other things, wonderful, wonderful author and just a great leader. We had him speak at one of our residencies, and he said something I thought was interesting. He said, what is the first characteristic of a leader? And that is vision. And a vision, and you're going to find out in just a few months because you'll be developing your own vision. A vision is, who is it? What is it that you want to become? It's not your mission. It's who do you want to become? What are you aiming at? Christians are notorious for having agendas but no vision, where we've got short-term goals, and we want to do this and do that, but we don't really think about what kind of person we want to become. And that's important because you don't become anything. You don't grow. I mean, we do the same thing over and over and over again in our spiritual life, just waiting for Jesus to come back. And you've heard us say over and over again as well that we know what God has saved us from and saved us to, but what has he saved us for? And I remember last year sitting in one of the affiliate groups, and this businessman starting to cry as he sat there and said, for the first time, I know what I've been saved for. And he was just, number one, he was excited, but at the same time, he was just brokenhearted. He felt like, I've gone through my Christian life, and now here I am, finally understanding that God wants to use me. And I want to be used. And I think that's why a lot of you are a part of the program yourself. You want to be used by God. You're not sure what it is, but you know that if you give yourself to him, if you sacrifice a bit of your time and resources and really devote your heart and mind to him, that he not only will show you, but you're going to come out not only a different person, but you're going to come out equipped to do some things you never dreamed you'd be doing. I was in prison all day Saturday visiting, and the first time I ever went to a prison back, I was in grad school, I was terrified, and I was horrified. I told everybody, I'm going to go to this prison ministry. And boy, before we got there, I wanted to get off the bus. And I did not want to go. I was terrified. My heart was beating out of my chest. And we got there. It was a Friday afternoon. We're going to be there through Sunday. And I wish I could tell you it was a great weekend. It wasn't. It was terrible. But for some reason, the uncertainty was gone. And I went back again. And I've been going in and out of prisons for a lot of years. I've taught classes. I go, I speak regularly at our local penitentiary here in North Carolina. Wherever there's a prison, I want to be there. I just resonate with the guys. I believe when Jesus said, I was in prison and you visited me, I believe he wasn't just speaking hyperbolically or giving us a parable or a metaphor. I think he really wants us to. And, but I had a vision for wanting to be the kind of person who did that. And that helped motivate me to get over that fear, that horrible fear, that paralyzing fear, to get to where I'm just so thrilled that God uses me in this way. The 3-year plan is to combine most of what we've been reading, thinking about, and praying about. You're going to develop a mission statement in a few months. That is, who are you? What do you do? For whom and why? Everybody should have one. Well, you do have one. I mentioned that if I were to follow you around for a week or so, I could tell you what your mission statement is. I could tell what's important to you by how you live your life, what your priorities and preferences are, and so on. So is that what you want your mission statement to be? And then you have a vision statement. What do you want to become? What do you want to become? My favorite quote is, you will not become in the future what you are not becoming today. It starts today. That's the kind of person I want to become. So how do you connect your mission statement to your vision statement? Your mission statement tells, again, who are you, what are you doing, for whom, and why? And that's the kind of person you want to become. This is the kind of person I want to become. Great, thank you. And that's what's called a strategic map. Some people call it a strategic plan, but a plan sometimes, if it gets off course, people ditch it. It's more like a map. You come up against a roadblock, you have to change course somewhere along the way because you don't know. There's a lot of people who had a 3-year plan and they couldn't implement it because things got in the way. But what they ended up doing, something else just kind of happened. And they said, if I hadn't come up with that 3-year plan that I didn't do, I never would have done this. God has ways of taking our plans and getting us where he wants us to be. So how do you start thinking about something new? You're going to read this in the book, Restoring All Things by John and Warren. And 4 questions that we always ask about how we can engage the culture around us. What is good in our culture that we can promote, protect, and celebrate? Maybe it's a good school program. Maybe it's this ministry program. Maybe it's this rescue mission or whatever. Whatever's there. As Christians, we should be promoting and protecting and celebrating those kinds of things. What is missing in our culture that we can creatively contribute? In our part of North Carolina, one thing that's missing is fathers. So many single moms, a lot of it because of the opioid crisis and some other things. So we are looking at hundreds of foster kids without fathers and sometimes and mothers in our area. And in our church, we are working very hard to provide opportunities of homes for them and for parents to come, as well as we're raising money to build homes so we can keep families together. We can keep the kids together. And our vision is this: it's crazy that we will have more people wanting to take foster kids than there are foster kids. And it's got a long way to go, but that's the vision. And we're going to get other churches involved and other people involved. But it's just, we feel God leading us to do that. And it's exciting. What is evil in our culture that we can stop? We talk about abortion and some of the other things. And there are times where we need to work to stop those kinds of things, at least to speak prophetically about them. And what is broken in our culture that we can restore. We've already talked about the families, but we got schools and kids with no food and those kinds of things. And we want to help as much as we can. 3-year plans and ministry, just from recent years. I should have updated this, Brooke, but we've got a number that feel led to get in prisons. Several have started organizations that help mentor inmates and ex-offenders. Not only organizations, but sometimes offer their own volunteer work. And they're working with those who are believers to equip them so they can get good jobs, to train others. To work with local unemployment office to coordinate job search efforts for ex-offenders, to expand support in regional job fairs. I was at the prison I was at Saturday down in Georgia. They have job fair there every couple months for inmates. I just think that's cool. In other words, what they're saying is, okay, you're going to get out soon. You're going to worry about getting a job, and we will hire ex-offenders. And some have developed ministry partnerships to provide resources such as housing, clothing, transportation, accountability for those who get out of prison. A lot of people have launched worldview ministries in their church, in their organization, and so on. And Brooke, remind me, you need to tell, oh gosh, I forgot his name. He just sent us the pictures of what his 3-year plan, the first step of his 3-year plan just recently. Ministry to youth. Writing, there's an individual's writing a Christian worldview for book. One lady is writing about God's purpose for suffering. She was part of she was in Cambodia, and a young girl when the Khmer Rouge came, and the horror of those communists is they killed 1/4 of the country population. It's very insightful. And then, of course, a lot of marriage ministries, a lot of business ministries, and some of them are just not ministries. People have just gotten involved in ongoing ministries. And One fellow that I know here in town, he started a opportunity getting college students to come over to their house, and they're reading good books on worldview. Most of the kids aren't believers. Some of them are, but God's using them. All right, I'm gonna stop there because I know we got some questions. But I know you've heard this before, and Brooke says don't show them the slide because they've already heard it a lot. But I'm showing you the slide. And love for you to be at Washington, D.C. for Wilberforce Weekend. It's just a highlight. Amazing. And the idea of being commissioned, it is one of the most, it's like a graduation. It's a big deal. And it's a lot of fun. I hope you can be there because it's a highlight for me as well. So, okay, Brooke, you're back.
I'm back.
Who I forget the fellow who sponsored the conference. About I'm just trying to.
It was Dave Johnson.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, he did the Rethink conference, and then we had the guys in Michigan put together the symposium as well. So a couple of conferences recently.
Yeah, that's really good. And his vision was this is the start of getting things going for. And he had how many people at the Rethink conference? There was
a couple thousand.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got questions, Brooke.
Yes. First, a question about the teaching project. How many times should they present, and how long should those sessions be?
Well, we want to leave some of that to you because some people are going to. I just saw a question there, it just threw me off. Some people are going to teach 5 chapters of our book, for example, on worldview, and so that'll be 5 sessions. I would say we'd like for you to do at least 3 sessions, and some people do a whole quarter and so on. Any other thoughts on that, Brooke, for yourself?
Well, if you have any specific questions about what you're planning to do, go ahead and email those to me, and either Bill or I will get back with you.
Right.
How about using what would you say videos?
Oh, yeah. We should have added that. In fact, what would you say videos are going to be part of the curriculum next year? Yeah, those are really good, and that's they're intended to be discussion starters. And in fact, today we were talking about some writers are putting together study guides to go with them. Though they will not be available, however, until next year. But that's going to be a nice tool.
Yeah, Gerald's talking about doing that with junior high and high schoolers.
Oh, yeah. See, that's awesome. Yeah.
To whom do we submit our teaching plan and a 3-year plan? You will find the assignment in the March conclusion in Pathright. So we would like your proposals to us by the end of March, and that gives us time to review them before commissioning. Beginning in January, you will see the questions that we'll ask of you in the intro for each month so that you can be thinking about them. And then you can actually submit your responses in March, and you can do that at any time. So if you already know what you're thinking about, feel free to do that. But if you don't, that's okay, because as Bill said, as we start the devotionals in January, they'll be taking you through your mission and vision, and that will help you formulate your plan as well. Can the teaching practicum be a study from Scripture rather than from a book?
Well, it depends on what you're going to be teaching, because the purpose of the Colson Fellows program, of course, is of course worldview, culture, and cultural engagement. And if it's just a Bible study, then you could have done that without the Colson Fellows program. So yeah, if you're going to take a worldview or a cultural a cultural perspective of that, then yeah, but let us know. We'll help you think through that.
Yeah, and if you're in a regional cohort, feel free to talk with your director as well. And they'll come to us if they have questions. Let's see. Someone says, yes, for the StrengthsFinder, some people purchase the assessment online and some people purchase the book. Was not sent to everyone. It was part of the bundle that you could purchase with the Colson Fellows book bundle, and I recommended the book because the book is actually, I see that you're overseas, Tim, but if you're in the States, the book is actually cheaper than purchasing the assessment online. But if you purchase the assessment online, that'll have a lot of the information regarding your strengths, but it doesn't have as much detail on all the strengths as the book does. Is there a database for 3-year plan ideas to spark getting a start? Yes, we are working on that. In fact, one of the things that we are going to be launching soon is an alumni portal. We will give them the opportunity to import their 3-year plans for ministry or what they are currently working on. As Bill said, some people ended up doing something different, which is okay, but you'll be able to search by ministry, by vocation, and see what others have done. For Wilberforce weekend, the total cost for the main conference and the Saturday dinner, if you're a regional participant, is $300. We do not recommend that you register for the pre-conference because we have our residency session as Colson Fellows on Friday afternoon. So that runs concurrently with the pre-conference. You can register for the Thursday night activities. So if you would like to go to the Socrates in the City event, you can register for that separately if you will be in town. And yes, kids can attend. It is the same rate for kids to attend. And then our final question is, someone wants to know, Bill, what are your top 5 or bottom 5 strengths?
My bottom 5.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see. I got it on my phone, okay?
Yeah, I do too. Well, I have it on my phone, not yours.
Not yours. I hope not. That would be weird, wouldn't it?
It would be weird.
Oh, I haven't even looked at my bottom 5, believe it or not. Okay, here's my bottom 5, starting with number 34. Oh, Brooke, you're going to love this. 34 is significance.
Oh.
Restorative. Context. I don't look to the past all that much for the present. I think those days are gone. And then competition. Again, I'm not that competitive. I don't guess. Although I was a world-class athlete for 5 minutes one time.
5 minutes.
Yeah, we had that lunchtime basketball. Our motto was, "We do not shoot well, but we're slow." And
did you play during the lunchtime hour at Cedarville with the
I got that started, actually.
Oh, nice.
But I ended up, I was a president. I had lunch meetings.
Yeah, well, that's true. You can play basketball over lunch.
And then consistency is my number 30. Consistency. Am I inconsistent?
Consistency is 29 for me. So
is it really? Oh, no wonder. That explains a lot. Oh my goodness, these poor people. Well, there are no more questions, so we're not going to. Is there any more?
There aren't, but
that was
we'll probably think. Oh wait. We do have a hand raised, so let's.
Oh, okay.
Brian Burris. Brian, I have unmuted you. If you could unmute yourself.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I just had a quick question or comment that I wanted to hear your feedback on, Dr. Brown. I think for my other fellow members in the cohort with StrengthsFinder, I'm a pretty big fan and have found a lot of value from it. And I think pushback I get sometimes is people are afraid that it puts them in a box or they isolate themselves with it. Mm-hmm. My response to that has been to encourage people that an assessment like the StrengthsFinder, while it's descriptive, it doesn't have a bearing on your ability to work hard or be disciplined.
Right.
And I would just wonder your thoughts on that, or what you would say to people who in the cohort who don't necessarily love assessments like this or things of the tools of this sort.
Mm-hmm. No, that nothing can. I mean, no, there's no assessment that shows your integrity, how hard you work, how much you love people. I mean, there's something about being a Christian that no matter where you are on that scale, as far as relations concerned, you can love other people and serve them, and so on. And if you're younger, I say no surveys are going to decide or tell you that you show up to work in time. You need to do that. There are just some character qualities that part of that. That's why they never talk about these strengths being character. That's separate, and those things are the most important part of that. And even communication skills. Some people, the communication is not that you can communicate well. That's just, your strength is that you just do it a lot. But you can communicate exceptionally well in speaking and writing, and be in anywhere on that. So there's a lot of things that don't fit into that. And but I agree with you. All of these, you have a tendency to put people in a box, or even put yourself in a box. And there are times where you have to step up and do, perform in tasks in particular areas where you may not be the strongest. I was always in a position as a president of university, so I could schedule to my strengths and hire to my weaknesses. And there weren't enough people for my weaknesses, but the idea being that I wasn't great at details, even though I have a degree in abstract mathematics. The details weren't as important to me as big picture and so on. But and Brooke will tell you, I had a couple of assistants who were just perfect when it came to details. I mean, just amazing. And that helped a lot. But you're right about that, Brian. But again, I wouldn't wear these on my sleeve. I know some people actually put these on their business cards. These are their strengths. And I have seen them on applications, and that's been helpful at times. That this is kind of the person we're looking for, that has these particular gifts. But so yeah, I think you're right on there, Brian.
All right.
What else, Brooke?
The hotel costs for Wilberforce Weekend. If you go to wilberforceweekend.org, there are different options available, but you will see hotel there. And when you click on that link, that will allow you to book your room that best suits your needs at the group rate. So the link that you will be given at wilberforceweekend.org will be the group rate. So you can choose the option that's for you.
And Tracy, let me say this too, and you didn't hear me say this, but the hotel is expensive, obviously, because it is what it is. But there's a number of people who came to Wilberforce Weekend that stayed at an Airbnb or another hotel or those kinds of things. Stayed with friends. They stayed with Donald and Melania. They had room at the White House for them. But but you don't have to stay there, so you can find a less expensive option. But you didn't hear me say that.
And those are all the questions that we have.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. And if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. And any observations, because again, there's always a number of people say, I don't like these surveys and so on. And, and I understand that completely. But it's been valuable enough for the vast majority of people, just some insight into thinking, maybe this is how God wants to use me. And we found out, even the 4 years we've done it, how it's been very helpful. And even at the residency in January, San Antonio, we're going to have a session on it. It'll be a fun session, but it'll be a fun session on StrengthsFinders.
An interactive session. An
interactive session, absolutely.
The introverts are nervous already.
I know. You don't have to be. You don't have to be. But see, at the table, we do this group thing, and it's just kind of fun. My wife, Lynn, her number one is harmony, and she was with two guys who are just like, they're the type A and just boom, boom. They're the activators, they're the executors, and so they were doing this project and everything, and they're psyched up. And of course, Lynn's just making sure everybody's having a good time and everybody's feeling okay about it and so on. It was a great team. Great team. Good gifts. Well, God bless you, everybody. Take care, and let us know how you're doing, and look forward to connecting with you again. Are we going to try to do something at the end of the month, Brooke, you think?
Yeah, we'd love to know if the Q&A session was helpful to you all. We'd like to continue doing those monthly.
Last month, yeah, at the end of the month.
Yeah, and just let you ask questions of me about just the process and PathRight and logistics and any content related questions of Bill. We'll schedule another one of those for, oh, and people are saying yes. Do it again.
Yeah, it's optional, of course, but we
Yeah.
got such good feedback from that. And plus, we like being with you, so.
We do.
Yeah.
So look for information coming on that. It's not in Pathright yet. So if you see a webinar that wasn't on your calendar, that's what that is. But it is optional, and we will record it.
Okay. Hey, God bless you, everyone. Take care. If we don't talk to you before next week's Thanksgiving, have a blessed time with your family. Trust God gives you lots of opportunities to represent Him well. Take care now.
Everyone.
Good night.
Bye.